You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, hello, everybody. Hope y'all staying dry. At least it's calmed down over here. I bet our two guests had our drive through the rain, I guess. We have Brent Day. I'm going to get this right. Brent Smith. Yes. Brandon Day.
No,
all right. Brent and Brendan. Okay, that's confusing. Mr. Day is the band director of Burleson High School, and Mr. Smith is the band director of Centennial High School.
Yes, sir.
And I got a lot of old stories about my relationship with the band. I had a lot of band students in my classes, and so I was almost like I was part of the program. That and the choir program, you know, I just seemed to have a lot of those students in my classes, and so I got to be pretty familiar with what's going on with all of them, and the tremendous amount of dedication it takes to be in the band. Time, effort. It's I was amazed by it. Of all the UIL activities, sports included, I thought it was probably the most demanding of all activities, time-wise and otherwise. And I guess y'all can vouch for that. Tell us, you know, why that is. But before we go jumping too far into the pool, I'm going to make sure we're all hooked up here with the various platforms. We're going to be sharing with some platforms, you know, on Facebook and whatnot. And also want to talk about our wonderful sponsors because they make all this possible. Thank you to Our Place and Otto. I bet y'all have been there before. You know, probably some early morning breakfast, I guess.
That's great stuff.
Mickey Waffles, come on.
Yeah, there you go. And then you have Gina's Pizza's been opened up. That's a great place to go. And they're open up for lunch now on Wednesdays through Sundays. That's a great thing, too. They have also sandwiches and things of that nature. I was there before. I've been there about 3 times since it's reopened, and it's a great experience. Also, thank you to Wild Cigar. Do you guys smoke cigars by any chance?
It's not my thing.
They got these lungs for playing the instruments.
That's
man.
right.
Well, they have other things there, too. They have a nice bar, and they also have charcuterie and things of that nature. And it's a good place to go hang out. Maybe after a hard day of band practice, you know, you might want a slug or two, you know, something like that. So, but it's a really nice bar and whatnot. So, Chris and Nathan, thanks for all you do for the community. Also, Tiffany Nico over at Local Life Magazine. It comes out at every beginning of the month. It's 30,000 homes plus a bunch of other outlets around the area. So you get a lot of eyeballs on your ads if you're advertising here in the local area. So Local Life Magazine or locallifetx.com. Check it out. And also, Southern Jim, are you gentlemen married?
Yes. I am, yes.
Yeah, okay. You got to take the wives here after a band season, if there is an end to a band season. And from what I've seen, it's 12 months out of the year.
Right.
But Southern Jim, my wife works here, and so she can set you up with repairs, designs, a gift, I don't know, for birthdays, all anniversaries. My anniversary's in a couple of weeks, and I'm already getting hints. I'm not getting hints. I'm getting full-on suggestions.
That's a good idea.
You think so, huh? All right. Yeah. Southern Jim over at the Standard by the Revelry. Also, our friends over at Two Maids. TwoMaidsCleaning.com/Burleson, 817-764-0733. I was talking with Brenda yesterday at our BNI meeting, and she said that they would have flexible rates and options. So if you think, well, I don't know if I can afford it or not, call Brenda and see what y'all can work out. And the people get paid by the ratings that you give them, not so much just a flat rate. So, but if you have a situation where you want to give as a gift, or you want to give some relief to your older parents or something like that, that's who I'd call. Also, I bet my friend John is very busy right now. Old Pro Roofing, he's watching the weather very closely. 817-734-2756. They do roofing all over the DFW area. It's, I don't know how bad this storm's going to get. I don't know if it's going to get any worse, but because I'm a very big weather agnostic. I mean, I have to see it to believe it, because they always say, oh, my Lord, here comes Armageddon. You think the end times are coming, and then it's, quarter of an inch. But anyway, the best time to find out your roof is leaking is why it's sunny and dry, not when it's raining. So he'll come check it out and tell you if you need repairs or not. He'll tell you the truth. No upsell or nothing like that. Also, Camco Mortgage, Sammy Campbell, Candy Gal. If you're looking to buy a home, you're looking to refinance a home, you're looking for information about mortgage rates and things of that nature, they deal with a lot of different brokers. So 817-778-4592 for Sammy Campbell. For Candy Gal, 817-925-2661. The rates are going up and down, up and down, up and down. So you don't know what's going to happen. So talk to them if you need to know. And lastly, and not leastly, Jeff Kelly at jeffkellyrealty.com. He works with the Wethington Agency. So give him a call at 817-781-0546, or his office number is 817-720-6300. He works all over the 817 area. So talk to Jeff Kelly if you need to look to buy or sell a home. Later in the show, we'll be talking about what's coming up with the Burleson Opportunity Fund. I had a meeting here yesterday, and so we have a lot going on. But right now, let us talk about band. First of all, what possessed you gentlemen to get into band? When you're in school, were you thinking, this is what I want to do? I assume y'all were in high school bands, and you were watching this guy up there, or it was a female band director, I know. Did you ever think that's what you wanted to do, or did you just come to that conclusion when you're going through school?
I think for me, I had a band director that I had great admiration and respect for. I'm sure it was probably the same for you. But, I had great relationships with my band directors because I saw them more. I was around them more than, in some cases, more than my own parents. Just because there's a lot of time. It was early in the morning. It was late in the evening. And my band directors kind of took me under their wing and said, hey, you could be something. You could do something, and you have a talent that can be cultivated and developed. And I also I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed being in a music setting, a band classroom. And at some point, I knew I wanted to go to college for music. I didn't know that I necessarily wanted to teach it.
And you chose a very fine school to do it in, too.
I sure sick and bears. I sure did, yes.
Had to throw that plug in there.
That's right, yes. Yeah. But yeah, so somewhere along the way, it kind of clicked. And not only do I love playing music and being around music, I love seeing that joy kind of being taken on by other students.
What'd you play?
Trumpet was my first instrument.
So you were at the Baylor University Golden Wave Band.
I sure was. There
you go. And how about you, sir?
So a lot of the same ideas as Mr. Smith here. I went to school, had great teachers, and I was just like, how do I cultivate this thing that I have spent too much time doing? Didn't know what else I would do. So went to school, went to North Texas, got Mean Green. Sorry, Baylor fans out there.
That's fine.
Still Green's close.
There's a lot. I ran into a whole lot of Mean Greens in my career because that's a very prominent education outlet.
Absolutely. I also did drum corps when I was in high school, and met a lot of great teachers, and just said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And along the same lines, just try our best and as a staff, and try to cultivate the love for music into all of our students that we teach.
Well, it's a full-on job, to say the least, because I was good friends with one of your predecessors at BHS, Joe McGee.
Yes, sir.
And he was there for a long time. The amount of time I saw him spend, he and his assistant, I guess, if you will, Mike Moscoso. I don't know if you'd call him an assistant because he did a lot of stuff, you know. Those two gentlemen, I don't know how Mike Moscoso had all the children he did, because he was there early and stayed late, right? And same thing with Joe. I mean, they were there pretty early, not just in the morning, but also during the school year. They started a full-on month before we did. Yeah. And I just thought, my goodness. I guess some of the questions I would have is, how do y'all incorporate all this time commitment around an academic schedule, particularly in October? We were talking about that earlier, but that's when a lot of your competitions are they not? Is that still the case?
Yes, sir.
Right. How do you work around all of that? I mean, it must be tough, because how large is your band, Mr. Smith?
180.
180. How about Mr.
Yeah, we're sitting at about 150 right now.
Right, and that's actually larger than what we had back in my day, so to speak, back when I was at BHS. So you have to coordinate all those kids and their academics and whatnot. That must be a real challenge.
It is. I think one of the beautiful parts about it, we obviously, our first priority for our kids is their academic achievement and responsibilities that they're taking care of those. But then, entrusting them and teaching them how to balance, you are in 4 AP classes and you have these assignments and this homework and whatever else on top of, hey, we have rehearsal that starts every morning at 6:30 a.m. That's a process in and of itself. I think kind of through that, we learn to be more efficient with our time.
Absolutely.
And value the time with our families when we get it. And we're lucky to have families that love being around the activity as well.
Are they educators as well?
My wife is not. No,
my wife is not either.
Okay. They're in fact, they have real jobs.
They do, yeah. And well, even at that, my wife also runs her own organization business, True Treasure Organization.
What is that?
It's basically she has the opportunity to kind of help people get their physical spaces organized, but also keep their mental spaces organized, their spiritual life organized, their financial spaces.
We got to get her on the show this summer. I got plenty of time in July and August. I have a lot of open dates. And
She'd love it.
Okay, but and your wife, I guess, works around your schedule, Mr. Day.
Yes, she does. She actually works 3 days at her job in Addison, so she takes a pretty big drive out to North Dallas, and then she works from home for 2 days a week. So it works out pretty well for us.
Well, but there'll be a time when it's going to be a real problem. Do you have any children?
I have 2 young children, yes.
I do not.
Okay, well, when they come, Mr. Day will tell you it's a juggling act, I'm sure.
It is.
It is a juggling act. But I had, I know Joe had a couple of children. I taught one of them. That's what always struck me about the band was, people think of sports as all consuming. And I guess it can be if you do the professional private leagues and whatever else, and on top of the varsity competitions and whatnot. But I always thought the band was probably the most committed to their group and their activity than any other outfit there is. I mean, the only one I could think of really that was in the same league may have been maybe like the advanced choirs or something like that.
Sure.
Because most sports have a season. Band doesn't, right?
It's full year.
It's all year. I mean, when football is over with in December, and and then they may have spring training and all this other stuff, and then working out and all this. But it's nothing like what I saw at the band. Because what is the first day y'all can practice in the summer?
Well, we don't necessarily have a specific day. We get 15 hours of marching before August 1st, and then August 1st is kind of the first full day.
That's what I thought. It was August 1st, but see,
Yes,
but you can have them in July as well.
Correct.
Okay. See, and I know for the sports, they're very limited in the summertime. The football starts after y'all do, and I think, from what I understand, this is the way it used to be anyway. They could start about 2 weeks prior to the first day of school, if they had spring drills prior.
Right.
And if they didn't, they could start maybe 3 weeks prior.
Yes, sir.
But y'all do y'all have UIL limitations?
It is, yes. So
Okay.
we have like the 8-hour rule during the week. So we can't practice more than 8 hours, except for we get an extra hour for performance days. But so we get that during the actual school year. But when it comes to like the summer camps, like some programs do 4-hour blocks, some people do 3 days. It just depends on what you're willing to give up and what the kids are willing to commit to and all those type of things.
I know that y'all abide by all these rules and all because that's what's expected, and also because you want to take care of the kids.
Yes.
You don't overwork them and burn them out and whatever else. But it's still a lot of time. And what I remember, I worked in the summer at the school, summer school and things like that. And I'd drive up on August 1st at 7 o'clock in the morning, and there was Joe, and they were marching in the parking lot because, what they were trying to do is avoid making too much noise with the neighbors. Right. Do you still have the issue?
Yeah, I mean, we have the apartments that are right across the street from us too. So
yeah, right. And you have So you have to kind of work around that. I know that was a big deal about 20-something years ago when they were building the high school, and it was, well, let's just say that it was people were led to believe that the stadium where we were, which is now torn down over at the early college building, was going to remain the stadium. But that didn't happen, of course. And so a lot of the neighbors are very upset by that. And that's I'm sorry about that. But
right.
So I had, so I just saw them marching in the parking lot, and is that about your kind of experience also?
Yeah. Yes. It's the exact same. Pretty much. We have the front parking lot painted like a football field, and that's where we do the majority of our rehearsal.
Well, and then. So you do it in the morning, and then when I left, usually it was about like early afternoon. They weren't there because it's 100 degrees and whatnot. So you come back in the evening time to finish?
Well, usually we will do, in the morning, we'll do a visual block outside, learning drill or doing fundamentals, and then we'll go in the afternoon, go back inside when it's super hot outside, and then we'll work on music.
You sound like y'all have coordinated your programs pretty closely together.
It's very similar for sure. We're also very fortunate to be able to use the indoor football facility.
And we have that now too at BHS. See, I still talk about we and they. You know, I'm still of the old school. I was there when the schools divided, and then we came, and I always joked about how BHS was the first wife and Centennial was the trophy wife. You know, I don't know if you. Oh yeah, you like thank you, Taylor.
Good job.
I don't know if y'all still have this, but there was early on. There was a lot of head knocking between the two schools because hey, they get this, why don't we get this kind of thing? Or they're having that class. Why don't we have
There's
this
still
class?
some of that kind of stuff, but we try our best to keep it very, very cordial.
And I think in fine arts too, like band is we do a good job. I think our first game, Battle of the Boot, band gets together, we perform together, we play We Are Family.
Yeah.
You know, try to promote that.
A lot of collaboration for sure.
Well, and I remember one of my friends who was the choir director at the time, Philip Glenn, who's moved on.
That's great.
He was very adamant that there would be no rivalry between the two schools when it comes to the fine arts. You know, if the football team wants to do that or other sports want to do that, great, get after it. But I know that when Centennial was having some event, several of the BHS people were there and vice versa. And Philip Glenn was adamant, we will not let this two high school situation divide fine arts. And so there were several collaborations between the two schools, at least in the band at the time and also in the choir programs. I don't know as much about the drama programs because I wasn't quite as attached to that. I had a few students, but I didn't know them like I did the band kids. So I always thought that was a good thing. Now the parents, maybe, they may be different. I know the parents, you know, they were adamant that their kid, whichever school they go to, is going to have everything the other school had. So I'm glad to hear that really that's not as prominent as it used to be.
Yeah, I got to go to UIL one act play for the drama department, and which is a really cool event. If you've never been, that's super cool.
I've been once. It was, gosh, it'd be about 15 years now.
Yeah, it's really cool, and get to see how kids, you know, manage that whole thing by themselves. It's really, really cool. But what I loved about it was held at, don't even remember what school it was. It wasn't a BISD school. Maybe Joshua, I don't remember, or a school in Mansfield, but there were BHS, while CHS was performing, there were BHS parents and students in the audience. And, you know, I thought it showed great camaraderie. They cheered, they were excited for CHS, and there's some vice versa as well. So there may be some healthy rivalry. I think that competition can be used as a great tool, but I think we love on each other too.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, in a friendly competition, you know, y'all make each other better.
Yes,
of course.
You know, iron sharpens iron, as they say. And so it makes you better without all the animosity or acrimony, and that's a good thing. But like I said, I didn't see that in the fine arts. I did see it with the athletics sometimes because I guess it's a more direct competition and whatnot. But as far as the fine arts, you know, there's a lot of cross relationships. You know, a lot of these kids go to church together, or they may have the same music teacher, or, you know, they're involved in other things with other people. And so from the other school, so I never really got that sense of, you know, those people across town, you know, blah 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 routine, you know. So that's a good thing, and I'm glad to hear that it's maintained that way. But as far as back into the preparation, the summertime and whatnot, so after August 1st, there are other limitations, are there not?
Once school starts, from August 1st through August 13th, or whenever the first day of school is.
So you get drilling all day long, huh?
Correct. We don't have time limitations during that time. But once school starts, we just have 8 hours per week to fall into, or unless, you know, we have a performance, then we do it.
Does that 8 hours include time in the schedule itself? I know.
If it's a school day?
Yeah.
No, sir. It's all outside of school.
Okay, outside of school. You know, it's interesting because several years ago, I'm dating myself again, I took a trip with some of my colleagues to Omaha, Nebraska, because they had some sort of program that at the time we thought we'd emulate. In fact, Centennial was designed on some of the results of that trip. You know, the way the school was built, the architecture, we brought those ideas back, and that's the way the school is designed, is the way it is. And they had this unique scheduling program. I'm talking to their social studies department head, and I said, well, how do you do this kind of scheduling with football and band and all this other stuff? And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, well, you know, what time of day do they practice? Well, they practice after school. They looked at me like, what are you talking about, having it during the day? So I think we're one of the few states in which it is part of the schedule, which,
we're certainly blessed in Texas, where we get great music education support. With our facilities, we have good facilities to be able to accommodate our kids, and we're grateful to have multiple assistants to help lower that teacher-student ratio.
How many do you have?
I have 2 other full-time band directors, and then a color guard director and a percussion director.
Okay, that you too?
Same thing, yes.
Okay, I do remember Joe had Mike, and he had a color guard coach, and the drum line, that came later, but a lot of time the drum line at the time, a lot of it was done like by like a tutor. They would come in and do it.
Like a tech would come in and do more.
Right. It wasn't a part of the staff. Is that still the case?
So now we have full-time people that are helping us.
Wow.
That's grown over the years, which has been great.
Well, I think it's only fair because, you got 19 football coaches, okay, we need somebody to coach left-handed tackles or whatever. And so, so I think it's only fair.
Something that is interesting, for marching band's such a big monster. And to coordinate 180 people moving around on a field, playing different instruments with different transpositions and whatever else, it takes a lot of help. And so we have marching techs, both of our schools do, that kind of function independently around the field, but still are under our kind of overarching idea or theme or plan for the day. But those are actually paid through our booster clubs.
Oh, good.
Which is great. We're glad to have them. Well, it would be great to have 19 assistant band managers.
I don't know.
One day.
Yeah, maybe. But it's just, that's another thing I was going to get to the band boosters, because I'm very familiar with them, because, Christmas wrapping paper sales and ham sales or whatever. But I'll get to that in a minute. But so in the summer, you work, probably full day, I guess, and then school starts. Take us through a particular day, just a regular day. Are your schedules now? Again, I'm going back to my time. For a while, we had block scheduling, and then the last 2-3 years, we had everyday scheduling. Is that still the case?
Everyday scheduling.
Okay. So take me through a day.
So for Burleson, we have all of our kids are either they're in their band class settings, or they have a percussion class or their guard class. So they will go through the day, work through that. And then on Monday and Tuesdays during the fall, we have rehearsals from 5 to 8 or 5 to 8:30 at night. Because that's when we're able to utilize the BISD stadiums on Monday night. So we're lucky and fortunate enough to be able to utilize that facility.
Will the practice facility also be available to you?
The indoor facility?
Yes.
Sometimes, yes. Okay. It just depends on who's in there at what time.
Yeah. Same thing with you?
Similar. We rehearse before school from 6:30 a.m. to 8:15, Monday through Friday. And then we have our school that starts at 8:45. We have 3 band classes that kids are broken up into within the school day. So we try to limit our after school rehearsal as much as possible, just to allow kids to go do other extracurricular activities or tutoring or get a job or whatever.
Well, I knew very few kids in band that had jobs, to be honest, because they couldn't fit it in. I had a lot of band students, because I don't know if this is a real scientific correlation, but a lot of the musically talented kids, whether singing or playing, also were pretty academically advanced. And I taught mostly AP classes for a long time. And so I had a lot of those kids. And I guess, generationally, if you will, to tell the younger kids, hey, you can take his class, it's going to be okay. Because almost always they were concerned, will I be able to take Allard's class or the English AP or whatever, and get this within the band schedule. And I very, very rarely had time conflicts with band or choir. The two things that really were conflicting in time were usually ag-related stuff, because you have 2 rabbits together. The ag had to go see it, and so all the kids are missing it. And also the spring sports, because they were gone every Friday, particularly golf. Good heavens. So I didn't have that kind of time conflict. And most of the kids were pretty good students.
Yes. Very
good students. And I think probably because of the discipline of time that y'all require, they didn't have time to go home and surf the net or,
that's right,
drive around and waste gas or whatever. They had, I only got a couple hours to get all this done. And so I think that made them better students because of the focus that band was requiring of them. You know,
Absolutely. We always say we teach life skills.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it always is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Band in an odd way, band or music is secondary to the other skills that we're teaching. We're teaching kids how to manage, lots of information, how to communicate effectively, how to be on time. And I think absolutely that makes them more successful academically. We have the valedictorian this year in our band. We've had the salutatorian and valedictorian more than once.
It's happened, I remember, 2-3 times. Yep. The top 10,
Right.
almost always there's a couple of band kids.
Right.
Always.
I think we have 6 this year. Yeah.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And like I say, I don't know if there's a scientific correlation, but I do believe that their musical ability translated to be able to understand more complex topics in social studies, at least. And they also, I think, knew that Joe and I were good friends, and so that helped, a bunch too, because Joe would encourage them to take my classes and such. Even if the AP time commitment was greater, he understood how I ran things and how he ran things, and so it was no conflict. And that kind of relationship really helped. Still, I always joke about October because that was band competition month, and it still is, right?
Still is.
I remember every weekend they had something, and that last weekend. Last week in October, when those poor kids, they really were dragging, Well,
I mean, and now they've bled it out to where it's almost like the middle of
November,
September to the middle of November. I mean, it's almost a 2-month endeavor at this point.
Well, take us through that. What's going on in those months? I know there's a lot of competitions, and then you do so well and go up to the next level. Is that what's happening here? You're stair-stepping up? And
you kind of have difference. You have different like one-off tournaments or competitions, as you could call them, and then you have like the UIL track, which is more toward that advancement situation. So there's a lot of different ways that we will have up to 5 to 6 to 7 contests throughout the fall, which is a lot for these kids and for ourselves too. But
you bet it is, and it's not just showing up and playing. You got to load the gear into the truck and then bring it home and do it all over again the next weekend.
That's right.
And that I remember, but it was really truncated into the month of October that last week, and because I was aware of all these demands, I would accommodate my academic schedules accordingly. No big tests, no big homework assignments that last week, unless I want to have my tires slashed. I don't know. Well, I didn't want to put pressure. I remember one time, it's kind of unrelated. They still do the musicals, I assume.
Yes.
Well, I had a lot of those kids in those classes. My classes were in a musical, and the week of musical, I forgot it was the week of musical, and I said, we're going to have a test on Friday, and 2 or 3 kids just burst into tears, and I'm like, what did it just say? But we had the show. Oh, okay. So we postponed it back another week or so because those poor kids were being worked overtime.
starts then.
Then I will give Philip Glenn again a shout out for that, because when he took over, he said, okay, we're going to be done at a certain time, and that kind of thing. We're not going to do any more of these midnight rehearsals kind of thing. But you also have to accommodate that. Do you get parents or anybody else that come to you and say, hey, you're demanding too much of our kids, or that kind of thing?
Sure. And I think at first glance, it is absolutely extremely demanding. I think when you start looking at some of the elements that you just mentioned, is, we're not our rehearsal schedule or our performance schedule is not taking away from your child's ability to be academically successful. In fact, it's the opposite. Right? Your student is going to be able to learn how to manage it's stress management. They're learning how to manage their time and their stress early on. They're succeeding in the classroom. And the beautiful thing about music is nobody ever says, I'm working music.
Yeah, right.
I get to play music.
Right.
And so it's the fun part for us.
Yes. Well, what also I noticed is that these kids were really, really close personally. Their best friends were in band, probably because they spent all their time with each other, but they had a real tight camaraderie. They sat together in class most of the time and that kind of thing. And it seemed to me that the kids were accountable to each other to a large degree. It's kind of like a good sports team, that they were accountable to their teammates. Same thing here. They're accountable to their bandmates. And if they had a kid in my class, say, that was struggling academically, I would notice that they wouldn't help the kid academically, encourage him or her and whatever else, as opposed to just, let them float off into the ozone. They were like, let's get you back up to speed grade-wise and things like that. And I thought that was another benefit of band was the relationships that these kids developed over years. And they probably still have them after they leave high school.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know even for our program, I mean, we have accountability buddies and they just take care of each other and make sure everyone's okay. And then we also have like tutoring systems and partners in play that, you know, we have a list on our wall that says if you're struggling in AP Calculus, this person is great at this.
Wow.
Find them, here's their number, and talk to them, and they'll help you out in that class. So
even if that person, that tutor's not in the band, or is it within the band?
they're within the band.
Within
so they're
the band,
current
okay.
members. So every year it'll change. So it's whoever's a current member that has that skill will be the next person in line to help with tutoring.
Well, and that's one thing I've noticed about BHS, and I'm sure it's Centennial too. My wife, like I said, was there for a long time, and she had a great deal of respect, still does, for Coach Geller, and because of the way he ran his program. And I had a coach I worked with for a long time named Mel Maxfield, who unfortunately passed away last year, and I thought he was one of the best at academic accountability for his players all throughout the program. And same thing with the band. You know, they had academic accountability. And if I needed to see a kid that morning, you know, like for whatever reason, and they had practice that morning, Joe would say, "You're gonna have to make up the time, but go take care of your academics." You know, they had to do some extra time or something. Is that kind of how y'all work too? Because
they've got to pass to be able to perform.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're no use to me if they're not passing their classes. So so usually if there's a tutoring situation that they need to go to, then it's yes, take care of that, and we'll make up time later.
Right, that's good.
There's certainly a coordination to it all.
Yeah,
Right.
that's for sure.
You know, the kids would say, "Oh, I can't make it in the morning, Mr. Allard. I got band practice." And I said, "Yes, and I already talked to Joe, and we're good to go." And so,
That's the way to do
I'll
it
see
right
you
there.
in the morning. You bet. I would tell Mr. McGee before I told the kid that I was going to be seeing him. He said, "Sure, and I'll take care of it later." And so they'd say, "Oh, Mr. Allard, I'd love to be here. Of course, who wouldn't want to be tutored by you?" But I said, "Don't try it. You've already been booked. I already took care of it." Grumble, mumble, and that kind of stuff. And that's not common everywhere. You know, I know that sometimes the competition gets a little out of hand in some of your colleagues across the state, and you hear about it and all this other stuff. But I honestly never saw that in our fine arts programs, and I just thought it's interesting because, you know, the thing is, I've been around much longer than y'all have in the BISD system. When I got there in early '90s to high school, our sports teams weren't that great. Okay, and but the fine arts always has been. And I thought that's unusual because the school really had emphasized fine arts, choir, band, and drama. And I thought that's not what your typical Texas high school would be doing. And I guess that they still push it pretty hard here too. Still,
Yes.
You know, I always like to look at it as this last fall during marching season, we did not have one kid fail a class. You said it, Brandon, earlier, where you have to pass your classes to be able to perform. And we kind of have a funny saying, if you want more kids to pass their classes and take care of their academic responsibilities, put them in a fine art. They're going to pass. You know, we hold them accountable.
You know, and really the truth is, when it comes to athletes as well, I very rarely had problems academically with athletes for similar reasons. Usually the kids that had academic problems were not involved in anything.
Right.
You know, the athletes, whether they loved history or not, it's immaterial because the coach made them love it, you know, that kind of thing. Or, you know, and particularly the female athletes, they had a lot of really sharp female athlete students. And the football team, you know, they always talk about, you know, maybe not being the best students. I never had that problem at all. You know, the football team over the years had some really sharp guys in it. So all that experience, you hear the stereotypical things, was not my experience. My experience with failing students were those that really just were so unattached to the school in all ways that they didn't care about, you know, passing because they don't have nothing to lose, they thought, even though we know that's ridiculous. Here's another thing always struck me about how difficult it must be to band. Two things. One is You got 180, you say, you got 150. But they're not all on the same level musically, are they? How do you coordinate that? I mean, you're going to have this, fantastic trumpet player and you got maybe this average, trombone player. How do you get a unified sound with all these various levels of talent?
Great question.
And that's where it comes with all of our time. We spend a lot of time, especially in the summer, developing that unified approach and doing a lot of fundamental building. But then we recognize, how do we make this a middle ground? We look at our best kids that are, the all-star kids, and we say, hey, we're going to give you a solo during the marching band show. We're going to make a moment for you, and then allow the others to still kind of feel like they're a major part of the system. But we also, I know both of our programs also have like JV systems, and they're learning those skills almost like an athletic program. And building those fundamental skills to be able to be there for the next year. So there's always a system where they're growing and growing and growing.
But you have a JV band?
So we have like a JV, like a marching crew that will help out. And we're still learning the fundamental ideas of how to do band and learning how to do band the way we want them to do it. And maybe they're not just quite ready to be in the competition show, but they're going to learn all those skills that everyone else is learning. So if someone, is not eligible because of failing a class or someone gets hurt for whatever reason, we have people that are ready to fill in spots that are always ready to go.
I would think that'd be very difficult because if you're a coach of an athletic team and you got a player that's lagging behind the others, it's more noticeable. I guess you're going to have that musical ear to say, oh gosh, our trombone section's got something's going on over there that I don't want to hear. So, and you have to work on that individually. Okay. And so do you guys both or your crew have to sometimes take aside like a section of the band and say, you got to pick up your game, guys, and so we're going to work on your sound?
Every single day.
Yes.
Okay.
Every single day.
Yeah. Okay.
And we have sectionals, where we get to work with the full band all together, but we also have some opportunity to work with just the trumpet section or just the clarinet section. And then even at that, there are times where it's like, hey, I'm going to pull juniors and seniors from the clarinet section or just these specific players because I know that there are some fundamental skills that can be developed before we insert them back into the greater whole.
You're going to need more help. Maybe when I become king of the state, I'll have more band funding or whatever. Yeah. Second thing I always thought was difficult is trying to teach those kids the marching routines. I mean, I one time Joe showed me, because I asked him this question, how do you do this? And he showed me some sort of schematic that they were to follow. Is that what you still do?
Yep.
And I said, how do you get kids to do that? Well, we yell at them a lot. No, he didn't say that. No, he said, no, we just practice. We just practice. And we'll do it again and do it again. And they're like, okay, that line ain't just so, or, if they're supposed to raise their instruments or do something at a very specific time and it looks sloppy, stop. Let's do it all over again. That's y'all's experience, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
I
things
think
haven't changed that much, has it?
There are a lot of you hit on it. There are a lot of similarities between band and athletics, where if you go watch a football practice, you're watching an O-line coach, sit there and watch that O-line do the same drill over and over and over, and then go individually address a few players. It's the same thing with us, where we're watching a couple of sets of a marching show over and over and over, go make some specific adjustments. And then try to implement those when we go back to it. So it's a lot of the same.
I didn't see a lot of practices, but I saw a couple of them over the years, and I thought, man, that's got to be tedious for the directors because they would play like 5 notes. Stop. Okay, do this again because you're coming in late, or the sound isn't what I want, or this line is wiggling around, or you're not hitting your marks just on time. In tune with the music and all this. And I thought, my gosh, it's a lot more than getting out there and just kind of running around the field and playing the alma mater.
Right. And now they've incorporated dance into what we do. So a lot of the marching bands will do dance techniques and things like that to add to the mix.
You mean like some of the historically black colleges? They have a lot of, that's a big thing, point of pride.
Sure,
with them. Yeah.
Well, like the fun high stepping stuff. Some bands do that, and some bands do a lot more other things too. It's really cool.
Even within our color guard, there's the winds too. I mean, there's a lot of dance technique that is now a part of band.
You have to do it.
Right.
Well, I remember, the color guard and all this, and they did show me the routines. Quite often they'd be practicing in the BHS cafeteria if the weather was bad. And so I'd see them and all that. And same thing. Oh, you didn't get your flag here, or you're missing that step or whatever else. Same kind of coordination and precision. And I think that's one thing I noticed about Joe's bands. And I heard about Centennial's bands. I know that y'all have gone to state a couple of times, have you not?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we were 6th in the state this past year.
And I know BHS has done well in the past as well.
Yeah.
That the precision is what I always noticed, because you're getting all those kids be coordinated to such a degree. The line is straight. They hit the note. They know where to put their foot at this particular time. But that didn't come by accident, did it?
No, it's a lot of hours. A lot of hours.
Yes, it really is. And then it's all year long. And then another time I noticed that band was very busy was towards the end of the academic year. What's going on then?
So we have multiple different seasons that, when people think band, they're usually thinking either marching band or concert band. But in reality, we go straight from marching band in the summer and in the fall directly into our concert band season, directly into our indoor drumline and indoor winter guard season, directly into our solo and ensemble season, which is what we're doing right now at CHS. Is last night we had our solo and ensemble event, and tonight we have our senior recital, and our featured performers are getting to play.
Yeah, I've been to those and had the band banquet and all that stuff, but I've been to their recitals over the years, and it have like you mentioned, feature players, or that section would play or something like that. But they also had like individual competitions, people going to state and things of that nature.
Right.
We still sending people to state?
So usually that's like UIL has an option if you want to do like the UIL version of solo and ensemble. We participate in that. And usually, I know like Centennial does theirs at the end of the school year. We do the UIL version in February, and that will allow students to advance to the state contest. So I know that we had like 40 kids advance to the UIL state contest this year. So they do that on Memorial Day.
And they get like first chair, second chair, and all that. That's still a thing.
For the solo and ensemble contest, no, but they do like the Team EA all state processes like in that December through January timeframe as well.
And that's again brings up a point I made earlier, is that this is a year-long process. I mean, sports teams don't do that. Maybe individual athletes after a season's over go play, club league or whatever else, but that's an individual choice.
Right.
But as far as band, I mean, there is no club league as far as I know, but they have to. I mean, it is academically from a month prior. They were even going past graduation day.
Yes, sir.
Graduation is next week, is it not?
Yes.
And you're going to still have competition going on.
Yeah, we'll have another contest the next week after that. So
so it goes before school and after school, and then just wow. But that's why you get paid so much, right? Yeah, right. Well, that's not what you do. And it's also I noticed about the band is that sometimes individual sections have their own personalities, particularly the drum line, which you're a part of, right?
No, not me. Thank goodness.
I thought you were in a drum line in school.
I did drum corps, which is like brass and percussion.
The drum line, they're a bit more bohemian, shall we say? Yeah. They are out there a little bit, Yes. It's just funny, the percussion and all that, and the drum lines on that. They always had that very unique personality.
Yeah, and they work so hard though. They work so hard.
Yeah, but they were good people. Certainly, they were harmless, but they saw themselves as kind of like the rogues of the band. We're over here. We're the bohemian cool kids, and they're playing their trumpet, whatever. That kind of thing. And it really was interesting. How that worked. Now, do you have kids that come? Not from other schools into the band, but just go. I'm a sophomore. I play the saxophone. I'm going to give band a try. Do you have many kids that come in from outside the group, or is this something that you really want to get them in, like in the 7th grade?
We try to get them in pretty early. Yeah. 6th grade is usually where we try to get them in. I know both of our middle school campuses, or all of our middle school campuses, they will allow them to still be beginners when they're in their 7th, 8th grade year, but we try to get them in as fast as possible. I know at Burleson, we opened it up to have some beginner options. So we've had a couple of beginners and some other students join in at the high school level, but it's a lot of requirements. You're in private lessons, you're meeting here for this, we're doing one-on-one sessions. Like, it has to happen for us to
get to audition musically.
It's learning a new language. Music and playing an instrument is learning a language. So if you're trying to jump into Spanish 4 without having taken a Spanish class, you're just not going to be successful. Right. So we try to put them where they're able to be successful early on.
So really, if it's just a kid just kind of on the spur of the moment, he never played in a band in the junior high, didn't play as a freshman, but comes in as a sophomore because I think I'm a pretty good drummer, or I'm a pretty good player of some instrument. It ain't that easy. It isn't like just walking on to the baseball team.
No, it's not. But we try, as fine arts coordinators, we try to find some opportunities for that kid to be involved in the arts. And it may not always be band, but a lot of times it's, hey, we can find a spot for you in choir or in theater.
That's interesting. But, as far as people moving into Burleson, I know for a fact that people move to Burleson now and in the past because of the schools, academically and because of the fine arts. I had kids that come in and say, well, I used to be, some local district, but, they moved here to be in the band or to be on the baseball team or whatever. Or, and a lot of times I talk to parents that had to do with their special needs child. Because even back in 1990, when I joined the high school, we're just a little cow town. I thought, no, people come from the state to look at the special ed program, the talented and gifted program, and the fine arts programs. And I thought, Burleson, I never even heard of this town, but apparently somebody has because they keep coming. And they'll come here. I know you have kids that are moving here for the fine arts because they told me so. And I think that's a great reputation to have,
Yeah, we've always had some good movements roll in, and they've always talked about how much they've admired the programs on both sides of town and how they really want to be a part of the culture.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I have talked to real estate people on this show, and they'll say, I've said this many times on the show, the two things that their clients are looking at are schools and police, and then other aspects like, what kind of restaurants you have and all that. But without those first two, everything else is, forget it, know. But they do move in for our programs. And I think that's a credit to not just y'all, but your predecessors and the support of the community. I personally, I didn't know how Joe did it, and I don't know how y'all do it, but I guess you must really love what you're doing.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to.
Yes, you have to.
Another thing, do y'all have, I don't know what the term is now, but we had like a drum major, there's somebody lead the band. Y'all still have that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was a very coveted spot. Still is, yeah. A lot of competition, but they also had they had like an officer corps.
Like the side conductors as well, yeah.
Yeah, they had it you had the main leader, but the group, the band itself had like
a student leadership team.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's what, still have that, right?
Absolutely,
And that's what led to a lot of the accountability.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we go through. I'm sure we're similar. We go through we have student leadership training seminars where we kind of empower our kids to learn how to teach others around them, and also how do we get our team rallied around a common goal, and not lose respect for each other, or
yeah,
because they're still 16 years old.
Oh
right,
yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Oh yes, I understand. I mean, they may have been really good students and more disciplined, but they're still 16.
Right.
Yes.
This little phone thing. I'm sure you've seen that. That the last few years it got to be, an issue. Used to be they just pass notes. Now it's the phone.
Yes.
Of course, now technology probably helps y'all's band program much more than it did before. I mean, do y'all use some sort of visuals and graphics and things like that? Just say, this is what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, there's lots of options now. I mean, there are some marching band programs we don't use it, but they learn their drill outside on their phones, and
we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool.
On the phone.
Yeah, it's called the UDB app, the Ultimate Drill Book. And like you said, we can input all of our marching show, and then each kid has a dot, and they can follow their individual dot on the screen, and it'll tell them exactly what yard line to go to and how many steps and what their step size is and everything.
It's pretty cool.
You don't use it though?
We don't use it currently. I'm a little bit more old school, but that's okay.
It's coming though.
Yeah, it's coming. It has to change.
I was a very old school teacher, and I thought when I discovered the use of PowerPoints, I'd landed on the moon. What I've been doing all my life, and that kind of thing. And all these teachers are talking about all this other stuff they're doing in technology in the classroom. I'm like, well, I'm turning my computer on. Does that help? I was so far behind everything. I'd be like you, Mr. Day. I'd probably be dragging and kicking.
Yeah, it's a little more old school. I like the paper.
Yeah, but it's coming. No.
Yeah.
Who is Ken Nosey still running the show over the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. I think I met him. Saw him yesterday. Rather, he's been on the show. Oh gosh, it's been about 18 months ago. So and then of course you have to coordinate with all the other fine arts departments, and funding is always an issue, and funding is makes the world go round. So you got to deal with all that. Y'all have any issues in that regard?
I think funding is in any district is always going to be a point of contention. We're very blessed to have the funding and the support that we do, and we're going to continue to advocate. Well, our thing is we just want the student experience to be the best it can possibly be,
Sure.
and to make well-rounded students.
Yeah.
As long as we have funding for that, we're golden.
I never thought, everybody, let's rephrase what I'm saying. I never saw my peers in the fine arts feel like that they were getting shortchanged. No, but they would like to have this, or would this have been great? Sure, but I never heard them complaining about the funding or the support. Or not. But also, you have to raise your own money, right? And I remember every year, it's like I would tell kids, various groups that are fundraising, I will buy one from one kid because I can't afford to buy wrapping paper from 19 band members or whatever it is they're selling. And so usually when they get their instructions, that they kind of beat a pat to my door and that kind of thing. And my wife would say, we have bills to pay, What do y'all do for fundraising outside of the funding from the district?
So, and I think almost like door to door or like buy this is almost over now. I think that kind of fundraising model has kind of been depleted. We're lucky to have wonderful booster programs that fundraise a lot of money. I know we both do like a major a fan pledge event, which is we just kind of do a soliciting thing and talk to people and say, hey, are you willing to donate to our program? We're doing all these amazing things and giving experiences for our kids. And we both raise, over $50,000 based on just that alone. But now there's so many great community restaurants and things like that will do. Hey, there's a spirit night for your band program, and just 20% of the ticket will go to your kids, and we'll get $500, $600 off of that for one night, and it just they compound, and we get money, and it's great.
Well,
and a shameless plug also is we're grateful for our community businesses, and we have trailers that go all across the country, literally. And we love being able to advertise for them and being able to put their logo on our shirts and send our parents and our kids and our community to those businesses, because we're grateful that they have donated to increase the student experience.
Well, I believe one of the things they started selling was poinsettias at Christmas time. Is that still going on?
Not for us.
We typically do that.
Yeah,
around Christmas time.
we had poinsettias, and then the ag would have like meat or fruit. Choir. My daughter was in the choir at BHS, and whatever it was, we just bought it. Whatnot. I know the football team and their booster club would sell like discount cards for local restaurants and things like that, and he just did it, because. That's what you do in a small town community. You
got to hustle and make it happen.
And really, after being in this position, I've done this podcast now close to 5 years. I'm in a great position to see more globally what goes on at these institutions like BISD. And not every town is as supportive as we are. I mean, we may think this town is a little nutty sometimes, but compared to some of our peers around this area, we're in pretty good shape. Speaking of fundraising, I'm going to jump into something that probably y'all are aware of, the Burleson Opportunity Fund. I went to a meeting yesterday, and we have a big golf tournament coming up on June 7th. So we were in the fundraising business as well. And guys out there in the vast listening audience, we'd really like to see y'all out there at $600 for a foursome, but there's various other means of support. Kayla Hoffman over at Sierra Bank, and Phil Anderson, who's part of City Council. Now, Phil was also a long time coach and teacher at the high school, and then he ran the facilities for a long time. They're trying to sign teams up, and our secret weapon is Patsy Dumas. And if we get serious, we're going to send her to y'all, because you can't tell Patsy no. I don't know if y'all met Patsy Dumas, but she's a Burleson institution, just a very sweet woman. And it's like she come to you and say, I'm going to need one of your kidneys. Oh, take both. She's that persuasive. You guys are hook her up with your fundraising, because you'll be riding in a limousine to your band events. But anyway,
sounds good to me.
But anyway, the golf tournament is over at Hidden Creek June 7th, and the Burleson Opportunity Fund, I'm sure you gentlemen are aware of it, will pay for the scholarships at Hill College for graduating seniors. And I've taught there since 2003. And I have classes every semester, and I would imagine a full 40% of my students are BOF recipients. And I know of kids that, we saved them a lot of money, or they may not have been able to gone to college, or at least, and I get a lot of older students as well, but like in their 30s and 40s. But I get a lot of kids now from BISD schools. And actually, the thing about it is, you don't have to even be a BISD graduate. If you're a Burleson resident, you get it. I wasn't clear on that until yesterday, but if you're homeschool or something like that, or you go to a private school in Fort Worth, but you're a BISD resident, you're still eligible.
That's cool.
Because the BOF is meant to benefit the entire community as well as BISD is, but the vast majority of the recipients are BISD. And I'm sure y'all seen some of your band people get these scholarships.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're in the fundraising business also. It's never ending, is it?
No.
It never does stop.
You got to keep making that money.
Got to keep making, because I don't want to ask you specifics about how much you spend, but I know it's a lot.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, we even do things like right now we're in the middle of doing like a flag fundraiser. So like we're doing, you pay us $20 and we'll bring flags for Memorial Day and for July 4th, and we'll plant them in your yard and pick them up. And
That's a good plan.
it's just things like that will help out the community and also just bring funds in for the program.
Yeah. Also, you probably do stuff around Christmas, I bet, and because everybody's generous then. Do you have specific band scholarships?
Yeah.
We do. We have scholarships to help students be in private lessons to help lower the cost of private lessons. We have scholarships to help lower the cost of their band fees so that they can experience band without having to go broke. And we have scholarships at the end of the year for college or what their next experience is after high school.
What are the expenses personally to be in the band? I know a lot of it's paid for by the district and whatnot, but it's like any other extracurricular. I was paying extra money for my daughter to do certain things in choir, and that's just what we do, right? I didn't even think about it that much. What are the other fees involved?
I mean, for marching band, it can range from $600 to $700 to be in the marching band side of the program, and but then there's also things like if you want to be in the indoor drum line or winter guard, there's another fee on top of that. If you're taking a big trip that year, if you're going to BOA San Antonio or another big event, there could be another charge for that. I mean, it always gets bigger and bigger every year almost.
Well, and you guys got to keep track of the money, right?
Right.
Do you have somebody that does it, or do you do it?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean, our booster program and the treasurers with our booster program kind of handle some of the responsibilities, and then we also do a lot of our own through our boost.
That's just one more thing, right?
Just one more thing.
One more thing, and I had funding. I was student council sponsor for a long time, and we had our own funding. Also, I was department head for a while, and we had our own funding. And the procedures and trying to spend money. I bet they haven't lined up. It's like, first of all, you need a note in God's handwriting to, get a box of paper clips, or something like that. I'm sure y'all are familiar with the hierarchy of spending, but
there really needs to be a class in college, teach you how to manage the finances.
Well, I thought I was going to teach music, not be an accountant. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'd walk in and our bookkeeper at the high school said, "Oh, we've changed procedures over the summer." Of course you did. It just as I got used to this one, we're going to change it now. I get it. No, you're going to have to give a blood sample and blah, 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 blah. Just, oh my Lord. So I'll just go to, get a Sharpie at Staples or something like that.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure y'all been tempted to do that.
No, of course. Still do. Don't worry.
Well, we're almost out of time, so I'll let you guys have the last word about your programs and what they do for the kids. Why don't you go first, Mr. Smith?
Sure. Kind of like we talked about, I think our students that come through, whether it be band, choir, theater, dance, art, I think they leave as more mature individuals, ready to enter adulthood, because they've learned so many life lessons through our activities. And I absolutely love what I do. I think we have a lot of fun with our kids, and we get to make great musical experiences in band specifically. And the way that it impacts our community and the positive impact that it has on people is what we live for.
How about you, Mr. Day?
It's a lot of the same things. I think it's just hitting home that we want to make better kids for our community. And better adults for when they get out of here, and spread what Burleson can provide to the rest of the world. And we think we do that pretty well in the Fine Arts programs in Burleson. And, we want to provide life-changing experiences. We say that all the time to our kids and to our families. And, both of our programs have sent them to, San Antonio, or we send them to Indianapolis, or we send them to Seattle, we send them to Ohio. We do all these things to let these kids just have wonderful experiences and things they'll always remember from being in school.
I do remember a couple of times we went to Disney World.
Oh, yeah, that too.
We just got back.
Oh, okay. At another time, I think they went to New York.
Yeah.
And I know the Drama Club used to do that. But anyway, I really enjoyed the show. I was able to reminisce about my experiences with the kids and with Joe McGee and what the band. I mean, the band did a lot for me because of the kind of students they were producing. I always enjoyed their company, and I always thought that these were going to be very successful people when they get out of BISD because the kind of discipline and skills that they got from the band. So I always was a big proponent of the band. I'm glad Miss Tyler sent y'all here so we can
Yes, sir.
talk all
Thanks
about
for having us on.
No problem. Let's see. We're going to be having an unusual schedule next week. Taylor, aren't you going to be unavailable on Monday? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing another show, our third show. We'll have to find out. We're rescheduling. I do have Victoria Johnson on Tuesday, and I do have the House of Hope, Crowley House of Hope on Thursday. We will have the Harvest House, which was scheduled on Monday. Jennifer's looking at her schedule, so we'll be probably having her on Tuesday or Thursday as well. So y'all just hang loose, and we'll tell you what happens. I'll put the notice out. Thank you, gentlemen, for what you do, not just for this great show, but also for those kids and for our community.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Taylor, and we'll see y'all next week.